John Gotti, an American gangster who would become the boss of the Gambino crime family, was a figure who loomed large in New York City's underbelly. Born and bred in the Bronx, Gotti's life was painted with the harsh strokes of poverty from the beginning. The struggle was real, and the city's underbelly offered a way out. It was here that he turned to a life of crime, a path that led him deep into the intricate web of the Gambino crime family. The young Gotti was not just another face in the crowd. He had an edge, a certain panache that set him apart from his peers. This didn't go unnoticed. Agnello Della Croce, a key figure within the Gambino family, took Gotti under his wing. This mentorship was the spark that ignited Gotti's swift ascent within the family ranks. The streets of New York City became Gotti's playground as he grew into his role within the family. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving. Gotti became one of the crime family's biggest earners, bringing in hefty profits from a myriad of illicit activities. But it wasn't just about the money. Gotti was a man with a vision to take the reins of the family that had given him so much. The stage was set for a power play that would shake the very foundations of the Gambino crime family. From poverty to power, Gotti's rise was just the beginning of his notorious reign. In 1985, the streets of New York City were rocked by the murder of Gambino boss Paul Castellano, a plot orchestrated by none other than John Gotti. John Gotti, a man who had grown up in poverty and turned to crime at an early age, was now a significant figure within the Gambino crime family. But his ambitions didn't stop there. Fear for his own life was a driving force behind his audacious plan. Castellano's leadership was increasingly being questioned within the family, creating a volatile atmosphere. Gotti saw this as an opportunity to make his move, to climb the ladder of power. But let's take a step back. Why did Gotti fear for his life? Well, it was a dangerous game they were all playing. The stakes were high and the rules were simple: kill or be killed. It was this fear, combined with his ambition, that led Gotti to orchestrate the murder of Castellano. But it wasn't just about survival. There was dissent within the ranks of the Gambino family. Castellano's leadership was being questioned and there was a growing sense of unrest. The family was divided, and Gotti knew that unity was crucial for their survival. His audacious move served two purposes. It eliminated a threat and presented an opportunity to seize control. The aftermath of the murder was swift and dramatic. Castellano's demise sent shockwaves through the underworld, and the power vacuum was quickly filled by Gotti. His audacity paid off and he ascended to the top of the Gambino family. He quickly consolidated his power, using fear and respect to maintain control. But it wasn't just about power for Gotti, it was about respect. He believed that the family needed strong leadership, and he was the man for the job. He saw himself as a unifier, someone who could bring the family together and lead them into a new era. And for a while it seemed like he was right. With Castellano out of the picture, Gotti seized control, becoming the new boss of the Gambino crime family. Gotti was not just any crime boss. He was known for his flamboyant style, earning him the nicknames the Dapper Don and the Teflon Don. John Gotti Jr. was no ordinary mobster. His high-profile persona set him apart from the typical image of a shadowy underworld figure. Gotti was flamboyant, exuding a sense of style and sophistication that was rarely seen in the grimy world of organized crime. His flashy suits, perfectly coiffed hair, and charismatic demeanor earned him the nickname the Dapper Don. But he didn't just look the part. Gotti was a force to be reckoned with, a man who was feared and respected in equal measure. He had a knack for commanding attention, a trait that served him well during his infamous run-ins with the law. Gotti's life was marked by a series of high-profile trials, each one more sensational than the last. He was indicted on multiple counts, from racketeering and murder to tax evasion. But each time he managed to avoid conviction, earning him yet another nickname, the Teflon Don. His knack for dodging the law was so uncanny that it seemed as if nothing could stick to him, just like a Teflon-coated pan. His trials were media circuses, with every detail of his life scrutinized and broadcast to the public. Despite the serious nature of his charges, Gotti seemed to revel in the attention. He would strut into the courtroom with a confident grin, dressed to the nines and ready to put on a show. His acquittals were seen by many as a testament to his cunning and influence, but they also contributed to his growing infamy. Each trial was a spectacle, a dramatic display of power and defiance that only added to his larger-than-life image. Despite his criminal activities, Gotti became a sort of celebrity, his trials and acquittals only adding to his infamous reputation. His life was a paradox, a blend of charm and brutality, of lawlessness and invincibility. John Gotti was not just a crime boss, he was a phenomenon, a man whose legend continues to captivate the world. But even Teflon has its breaking point. Gotti's reign could not last forever. Just as the sun must set, so too must the reign of even the most notorious figures. John Gotti, the Teflon Don, wasn't an exception. The flamboyant style and audacious bravado that had once made him a media darling and a feared figure in the underworld eventually led to his downfall. For years Gotti had evaded the law, slipping through the fingers of justice time and time again. But his luck ran out in the 90s. The very audacity that had marked his rise to power now betrayed him. His public demeanor, the flashy suits, the swagger, the defiance, all of it caught the attention of the law enforcement. Their gaze, once drawn, never wavered. In the end, it wasn't a rival mobster's bullet that brought Gotti down. It was the relentless pursuit of the law. The authorities built a case against him, painstakingly collecting evidence of his involvement in multiple criminal activities. Finally, in 1992, the law caught up with the Teflon Don. Gotti was convicted of 13 murders, conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, obstruction of justice, tax evasion and more. The mighty Gotti was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The downfall of John Gotti marked the end of an era. The flamboyant mob boss, who had once strutted down the streets of New York with an air of invincibility, now found himself confined within the cold, stark walls of a prison cell. His reign, once marked by power and fear, was reduced to a distant memory. The fall of Gotti was a stark reminder of the reality of organized crime. Behind the glitz and glamour lurked a world of violence, treachery and betrayal. A world where power was fleeting, and loyalty was often a commodity up for sale to the highest bidder. In the end, Gotti's reign came crashing down, his life of crime catching up with him. But his story served as a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the inevitable fate that awaits those who choose to live a life on the wrong side of the law. John Gotti died of throat cancer in 2002, but his impact on the world of crime and on New York City has lived on. Born into poverty, he rose to become the boss of the notorious Gambino crime family, ruling with a flamboyant style that earned him the nicknames the Dapper Don and the Teflon Don. His life, laced with violence and defiance, became the stuff of legend. Gotti's reign was a turbulent time in the history of organized crime, marked by audacity and a brazen disregard for the law. He orchestrated the murder of Paul Castellano, seizing control of the Gambino family and reshaping it in his own image. His influence was felt far beyond the borders of his crime family, reaching into the heart of New York City and the wider world. His legacy is a complex one. On one hand, he is remembered as a ruthless mob boss, whose actions led to a wave of violence and crime. He was a symbol of a darker side of the American dream, where power and wealth were pursued at all costs. His life was a cautionary tale of ambition gone awry, a stark reminder of the consequences of a life lived outside the law. On the other hand, Gotti was a figure of fascination, a character straight out of a Hollywood movie. His sharp suits, charismatic persona, and high-profile trials captured the public's imagination. His life has inspired countless books, movies, and TV shows, cementing his place in popular culture. Yet beneath the glamour and the notoriety, Gotti's story is ultimately a tragic one. His relentless pursuit of power led to his downfall, his final years spent behind bars. His death marked the end of an era, but his name lives on, a symbol of a time when the mafia ruled New York. John Gotti, the Dapper Don, the Teflon Don, a figure of infamy and intrigue, left a mark on the world that won't soon be forgotten.